Welcome to this episode of Into the Pages. This episode we are getting into Oathbringer and Dawnshard, the third in 3.5 installation of the Stormlight archive.
Both good books, although I think Oathbringer is when I hear the most people will have a hard time getting through it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. And for me, it was very easy. This one was, I thought it was really interesting reading it again. There was so much that I had forgotten or missed. Little bits of information here and there, and it was great reading again.
I agree.
And I felt like there was plenty of action going on in this one. There
was a lot of little points of action.
Yeah.
Which was nice. This begins, like a big portion of this book is kind of dedicated to settling into Urithiru and Dalinar trying to get his coalition together.
Yes, I think that is a lot of what this book is, yeah. And it's kind of the same for the other way around. Like the Fused are now starting to build themselves up, and like they're rounding up everyone to fight against all the humans.
So if we remember, Rhythm of War ended with the listeners in the Shattered Plains all adopting Stormform and then summoning the Everstorm, and it ends in like one of the most beautiful climactic scenes of entire literature.
Yeah, you liked it that much.
I don't know what it is about the whole sequence. It's just awesome. I love that part of Words of Radiance. But it basically ends with them discovering Urithiru, and now Dalinar. I think Oathbringer, in my opinion, I think like this, because this is like my third time reading it through, or fourth time. I think this time I really Dalinar kind of resonated with me this time around, and like his character growth and what he has to, because he's trying to, like, so he bonds the Stormfather, which that bond, or maybe not that bond, it's not really clear, helps him remember his wife and what happened with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's trying to get together a coalition, which is hard. It always seemed like, when I remember that the first couple times I read through it always seemed like these monarchs are just being idiots. Like, why don't they join Dalinar? Like, so obviously they all need to work together. But then this read through, I finally realized, I was like, oh, because to the rest of the world, Dalinar is a warmonger, war chief who burns alive women and children to get what he wants. And so like, if all of a sudden he's knocking at your door and he's like, oh, in the middle of your city, there's a way for me to get in, unlock it, I would be like, dude, screw you. No. Like, what the heck? Get out of here. You're trying to kill me.
Yeah.
So like, makes a lot more sense. And then kind of Dalinar's growth and acceptance of that. And then and then in the end kind of acts as a inoculation against Odium's influence later on in the book. But
yeah. I definitely thought this was a really interesting way to write a series, because in the first two books, Dalinar does a bunch of things that's just like super cool. He just proves himself to be a really good leader, in my opinion. And it's interesting to see how much he has flipped. Like the first two books, you just see like, oh, he's all about I forget what they call them.
Blackthorn.
I mean, there's the Blackthorn, but he followed the codes. That's what I'm thinking of. Like, yeah. He's so strict and like, I'll follow the codes, and he even is like, throughout these two books, like trying to do the honorable thing, and he's not trying to do all these things like unite everyone or taking the gem hearts to the crown for his own selfish gain. He's like he's continuously working towards like uniting everyone. We need to be united Alethkar, not just all these high princes and stuff. And like even like the biggest thing is at the end of Way of Kings, he's betrayed by Sadeas, but then he doesn't even like do anything. He doesn't go to his camp and like, hey, you did this on purpose, so you're gonna die now. And he
which sets the stage for Adolin.
Yes,
Adolin kills Sadeas in the first few chapters of Oathbringer.
Yes, which is fabulous. I have it marked as one of my favorite things. Like, yes, Sadeas has been murdered. Excellent.
And it was a really good scene because it was just because the whole most of Way of Kings, like all of Words of Radiance, Adolin was just like, dude, Dalinar, like we got to deal with that. We can't just keeping Sadeas on our side. And Dalinar kept being like, no, he's a good man. They're like, oh, he betrayed us. Yeah, but he won't do it again. Like I think Dalinar was so stuck in the past of like, because Sadeas, him, and Gavilar are the ones who like really worked together to. Yeah, unify.
I wonder if that's why he kept thinking Sadeas was because, like, he was down at Sadeas's level for so many years, and then he elevated, and then he's still kind of thinking of the past, and it's like, oh yeah, we got along so well, we had the same ideas and same goals and everything.
But Adolin sees the truth, and then they part of Urithiru is like the magnitude of Urithiru. A lot of times it's hard to remember because it's like I don't even know 15 stories.
It's something like that, but
each story is the size of a city.
Yeah. And I think
maybe not the very high ones, but the low ones, like the lower 6 are definitely like
right. Yeah, no, that's exactly how it was. I remember they talked about it, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was like it's 15 stories, but that's like that each tier, there's like 1 tier, 2 tiers, 15 tiers, but then in each one of those there's like 20 stories or so it's like something like that.
Yeah, and to give even 4, like the majority of the people from the 10 war camps move into Urithiru and like barely fill the first few floors. And not even like they're not even max capacity. They just kind of go in there. And so it's like that's how Adolin's able to kill Sadeas and not be caught initially. He's never caught. He eventually confesses.
Yeah, he only is found out because he says he missed it.
The reason he's not because they're all exploring it, and when you think about it, it's just a tower. Like how hard is it to explore? But then you realize that each tier is a city.
Yeah.
And then it's just like this totally ghost town, and it's a tower, and so it's dark, unless you're on the edges, on the balconies. But once you get into the center of the tower, it's like you need light and lanterns and spheres, and they have like a stormlight shortage because storms don't go as high as you're through, and it's still like the weeping is still being weird, so they don't have stormlight, and you need stormlight. Like it's like this really interesting situation. Like they almost borderline feels like they're like stranded. And just like this massive monolith of a city.
And I don't know if did they ever talk about like, oh, how do we renew spheres? Did they even discover anything that's like, oh, we can put them like each rooms have these things where you can put it in here, slide it outside, and it'll charge your spheres. They didn't really find anything.
For the most part, storms don't even come up as high as the tower. There are some times of year when they do, which we see in the next book, Rhythm of War. Sometimes it does come up to the tower, but it's not a regular thing. Normally you can just see the tops of the clouds, and you can see them kind of like, oh.
Yeah. That must be crazy to like be in their perspective where like high storms are these huge things. Like they did use the spheres to, light their way, but they didn't really understand that how much power was in those spheres that the Stormlight provided. Because
so much hits them all at once with Stormlight because they're like, we need it to like see. We need it to operate Fabrils. We need it to for our Knights Radiant, which at this point is just in the tower, is Kaladin, Shallan, and Renarin. And then we need it to power the Oath Gates. And they don't have any because it was just the Weeping. Like, it was the middle of the Weeping and Words of Radiance. And then all of a sudden, like, the spheres run out. And then there's a surprise storm. And since it was a surprise storm, no one put their spears out, so nothing got renewed. So it's just like this perfect storm of, like, can't do anything. That's kind of like the first little bit of the book is kind of a big piece of like what's going on. They're trying to like ration all their Stormlight.
Yeah, I really would like to know what they thought about Urithiru on like on a level from like the lower commoner people. Just kind of thinking like not only does high storms just play this huge part when it comes to like the spheres, but it's also just like this devastating thing. It's so destructive that literally the entirety of Roshar is built in a way that can withstand the high storms. They've got shelters everywhere. They've even got wagons and such that like are built more tough so they can handle the storms. And suddenly they discover this city that's so massive that they can literally watch the high storm from above and like not. Mm-hmm. I was gonna say maybe they don't even feel a breeze, but maybe they feel a little bit of a breeze. But like
because there's several scenes. I don't know so much about Oathbringer, but in Rhythm of War, there's like several sentences where they're like, "Oh yeah, there's a storm like right now. It's going on right now."
Oh yeah, that is true.
And then the character in their mind kind of mentions like, "Oh, that's really weird." Like I normally like if you're in a storm shelter, I think Kaladin's perspective says this. He's like, normally when you're in a storm shelter, you can like feel the thunder and you can like hear rocks slamming into the like big boulders slamming into the shelter, and you can hear the wind howling, and so you know there's a storm even though you're not in it. But Urithiru is just like calm, peaceful. There's nothing going on.
That's got to be so crazy, like just having this thing that for the entirety of your life and like of everyone who's ever lived on Roshar is like have to deal with these storms. Is something you've got somewhere to go. Like, oh, right, there was a storm today and I didn't even notice it.
And then like right in the backdrop of all of this, the singers and the newly awakened fused they don't all awake at the same time.
Yeah,
kind of like in waves. So you have just a few. But one of their first goals is to conquer Alethkar. And they don't have access to Alethkar because it's like something's weird going on. So they don't have access to their own capital. And they're living in Urithiru. And Urithiru is like up in the mountains.
Yeah.
And they can see, they can tell that there's like some way that they used to live there to like grow crops and be warm. But they can't figure out how to get those things work. And so they're just pretty much living in the mountains in like this tower that doesn't do anything. And so they have no food. They have plenty of water. And they kind of figure things out, but they're not really self-sufficient, and so
it's.
I know that's another big part of the book is Elhokar leads a team to Alethkar to try to liberate it.
Yeah, and they want to get one of the goals they had is to also get as many of the Oath Gates up and running as they possibly could. So they went,
which is why they want to go to Alethkar because Alethkar has one.
Yeah,
and it's like their own capital, so they're like, what's going on? Because they can't communicate, and so.
And it's so weird. I don't know why it gives me kind of like a surreal feeling to like think like how much time they spent on the Shattered Plains. I mean, they spent 6 years, and we only spent a few months if you go by the time of the book. And then suddenly they're just abandoned there. But I don't know why that feels weird to me. But they had to change the Shattered Plains to what they used it for. It was like no longer war camps. They like got the farms and stuff going, but it was all just to support Urithiru.
Mm-hmm. It becomes more like a trading outpost.
Yeah. And I wonder how that would be because the Oathgate was like in the middle of the Shattered Plains, but I think they made some of the old war camps like what
I think you just have to have both because whenever they traveled from the war camps to the center of the plains, it still took a couple days.
Yeah. I wonder if that
was also they were moving an entire army, but
yeah, I wonder if it was slightly easier because they probably I don't think any of this is talked about but they were probably able to like put up permanent bridges without, they didn't have to worry about attacks anymore.
That's true.
I'm guessing.
Well, there is mentions. Well, I guess this is later on, but the heavenly ones who are they're fused that can use the gravitation surge, which is basically flying. They do raid caravans, and that's kind of a part of it because with Moash. We also get, because at the end of Words of Radiance, he got chased off by Kaladin from trying to assassinate Elhokar. And Moash, like, right off the bat, when he's trying to escape, gets attacked by Heavenly Ones and captured. And then, essentially, he joins the other team because he's like, yeah, like, humans suck at ruling. Let's give this.
He's so messed up.
And then he becomes, like, kind of their main dude. Well, not their main dude, but he just becomes like almost like an assassin for them.
Yeah, I totally missed this the first time I read it, but they even changed his name.
Yeah, to Vyre.
Vyre.
He who silences, or quiets. He who quiets, something like that.
Did he just get that name because he killed Leshwi?
No.
It was because of other stuff?
He got it because he killed Leshwi, which is what kind of made him even survive, is because they captured him like, oh, when Leshwi comes back, she'll want to kill him herself. But then she's like, no, like it's all good. and then he just like works, like he joins with the awakened Parshman and does stuff. And then they kind of like, we like your passion. Go kill this dude. And he kills who turns out to be one of the heralds. He kills one of the heralds.
Oh yeah, Jezreel, and like he's like the main herald, the king of heralds, they call them.
Yeah, he kills them with a special dagger. How the dagger works is you stab him and it like sucks your investiture and puts it into a gemstone, but that killed him. Like it didn't work the way they thought they were going to imprison him, but it just killed him. And after that they were like, here's an honor blade, you are Vyre.
Yeah, and I think it was probably later after this when Kaladin is talking to Zael. That's his name, right? The Swordmaster.
Zael, yeah.
He's talking to Zael, and he's like, Zael even kind of like admits like he's one of these immoral guys, and he's like, "How do we kill one of you?" Kaladin asks him, and it's like, "Well, you'd have to kill them and then make sure no one can invest their soul or whatever with anything." So I'm guessing that's what that knife did, was it like it killed him and then made sure he wasn't getting invested again. But I don't know if that is correct or not.
It explains it a little bit in Rhythm of War. Basically along the lines of what you're saying is like they were mortals that were changed by honor.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he gets sucked into there, something happened that made his soul mortal again, and so it just kind of dissipated into the eternities.
Which is, I don't even know, is that really like I'm trying to also decide if that was really a blow to the humans, because
I think
they're all like crazy.
Because I think we also need to remember that it's been 4,000 years.
Yeah.
And I think prior to this, there were so many desolations, so many wars that were led. It was pretty much the heralds against the fused. And the heralds used humans as armies, and the fused used singers as armies. And so I think the fused, when they first came, they're like, "Oh, we have this chance to kill the herald. The heralds are going to help the humans." But this is before they've realized, like, no, the humans have had 4,000 years to. They don't really need the heralds the way they used to need the heralds. Like, they need them to train Radiance, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Like, they don't need them for anything else. Like, they have really sophisticated armies. They have really good infrastructure. They have good governments.
Since they were actually able to.
Because of Teravangian kind of screwed that up a little bit. But
yeah.
I think they decided to kill Jezrien before, or maybe because of those reasons, rather than, like, actually maybe thinking that they'll really affect the war. And probably part of, like, the Oath Pact. Like, maybe they were trying to think, like, how do we not get caught on Braze again, even though the Everstorm's here? I think it's like a lot of just old habits. They're like...
I agree with that, because, yeah, he wasn't doing anything before.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes you think, like, oh, no, the King of Heralds was killed.
Yeah, because he was just like a crazy homeless dude in Alakar just sitting there.
Yeah.
He was just ranting to himself, and then Moash just stabs him. Like, it wasn't even a fight. He was just like, yoink.
Well, mentioning things that I missed... I missed that the Everstorm was never present before this.
Yeah.
That the other desolations, the Radiance, the humans didn't have to worry about it, and now it's something new.
Yeah, so it was interesting how it worked, because they mentioned there was talk. I think this was when Ash kind of came and was talking to them, and she explained that how it would work is like the heralds would come. And then they would train the humans and then fight for a little bit, and the fused would still be able to come back. But then once the heralds thought that the humans were ready to stand on their own, then they would choose to go to Braze, and then that would trap the fused. And so, like, that's why the heralds had to be on Braze in order to stop the fused from coming back.
So this is one thing I wanted to get clear on. Maybe but I was kind of thinking that before the Everstorm came, the fused could be killed, but they would go to Braze.
They would, yeah, but without the heralds there, they could come back.
They still could come back, though.
Not the same way that they did. Odium had to step in and do something.
So it's still, with the Everstorm, it's a lot easier for them to come back now. They can come back every 9 days.
They don't need
or whatever.
They don't need to use Odium directly.
Okay, so that's still a huge thing that they have to worry about.
Yeah, it is technically Odium's storm. And I'm kind of wondering if the Everstorm's going to get its own spren, kind of like the High Storm has the Stormfather. I wonder if the Everstorm's going to have maybe it's going to be like a new unmade or something.
Maybe. I wonder if
right now it's just
that is something we would learn later instead of maybe they don't know yet.
So that's another big thing about the early part of Oathbringer is we meet Ja-Anat.
Yes, Ja-Anat.
The Midnight Mother, who's an unmade spren who creates nightmare things from tar and smoke. Who was defeated by Shallan, but we learn later on, I think more so in Rhythm of War, that she's kind of gaining sentience, if you will, and she wants to grow and become, and she's she corrupts spren, is the thing that she does that's important in Oathbringer right now. And she kind of messes up some things for them, like she corrupts the spren of the Oathgate in Alethkar, which Elokar and team don't realize. And so when they try to activate the Oath Gate to get a year through, they just end up getting trapped in Shademar.
Yeah.
Prior to that, there's so many details to get into everything.
Literally
like
so many.
We would be here for hours just talking about every little freaking thing that happens. So just like high level, they go to Alethkar. They absolutely fail in saving it, but not from lack of effort. They actually do some, like, I think Brennan easily could have made them win, but I think it was good that he didn't make them win because it was like super devastating, especially for Kaladin, like totally wrecks Kaladin. And he almost says the fourth ideal, but can't.
Yeah.
Because Elokar gets killed by Moash, and he also sees friends killing other friends, which we're not getting into because we kind of skipped over that part, but he has friends among the singers. There's so much. We're like 400 pages.
We have this 1,000-page plus book.
So bottom line, they're trapped in Shademar and Kaladin's freaking out. And then during all this, Dalinar loses all contact with them, and he's like, I don't know what's going on. And he's trying to get monarchs on his side, and he's able to finally make some headway with Queen Fen and Thalina. Yeah,
but she as we have been learning in Oathbringer, is super wary of him because it's like, you're the Blackthorn. You're this guy who's like, you just gone through and conquered and everything. And he's like, no, what I've changed.
Especially because of what Dalinar. So Thalin's city was like particularly wrecked by the Everstorm, because what's important about the Everstorm, I don't remember. I think the High Storm goes from east to west every time. Like it circles the planet east to west, east to west, east to west. And but the Everstorm goes the other way around. Yeah. And so everything was built to guard against this way, what was totally open. So like cities across Roshar are just being devastated. And Thaylen City was hit particularly hard. Yeah. And so Dalinar tries to use that. He's like, let me send some soldiers to help you. And the Queen's like, I'm not going to let your soldiers just come. Yeah. But then Taravangian, who we learned in earlier books, was the mastermind behind the Assassin in White, and he's now king of Yak Ved. He joins up with Dalinar, and that kind of gives them momentum. Unfortunately, Dalinar doesn't realize that Taravangian is wicked. Yes. But that kind of helps, and then he's able to get in with Fen. And then Sadeas' wife at this point she's just being a thorn in their side, and she's just kind of being a weirdie. And she makes Amram Sadeas. I don't even really understand how that works, but
yeah,
he's pretty much the new leader of the Sadeas house. And then Amram gets put in charge with the Sadeas soldiers of helping Thaylen City. Which, yes, this is foreshadowing, in case you don't know what that is. Biggest climax in the dang book. Like, and there's a lot of character building at this point. Like, after those first initial action sequences, the battle for Alethkar, and some other things, there's like a lot of character building that goes after this. Because you have Adolin Shallan, a new character called Azure, which, in my opinion, is Vivenna from Warbreaker.
Oh, I was trying to figure out if that's not who she was. I was trying to figure out who she was in this book, and
I haven't heard anything or any confirmations, but that's my prediction. Yeah, I think Azure is Vivenna, and I think Zael is Vasher.
So actually, throughout this book, I've become more and more convinced that Zael is Vasher, because he used to have that sword.
Once you get to Rhythm of War, it's 100% confirmed for me.
Yeah, and which book was it in? Was it in this one or Rhythm of War? They're blending together for me, but there's one of the books where like he spars with Kaladin.
That's Rhythm of War.
That's Rhythm of War.
Yeah, that's in the first few hundred pages of Rhythm of War, so we will talk about that later.
That's when he had that sparring, I was like, oh my gosh, he really is flipping Vasher.
And then the conversation they have afterwards too.
That conversation is insane.
You're like, yeah. Anyway, so those five. Wait, who the Kaladin, Adolin, Azure, Shallan. Those four are stuck in Shademar. And as they're traveling through Shademar, you get some character growth because Adolin's feeling all like, oh, this is the world of Radiance. Like, I can't do anything anymore.
Yeah, even though he used to be on top as like a full shard bearer with plate and the blade. Now he's just like, he's so
There's
inferior.
There's that funny part that we were talking about last episode, where he tries to summon his shard blade in Shademar, and then that...
his sprint.
Maya Lauren, we find out her name is, just kind of like screams, and he's like, oh, what the fuck? Yeah. I thought that part was really funny.
That'd be horrifying, I think. Like, you just see how, like, in the first couple of books, whenever a Radiant with a living Spren touches a shard blade, it screams and, like, freeze, like, what the and then, like, shaken by it. To, like, be standing right next to her just to let out this, like, belting, screeching scream, whatever it was. Be like, that would be gut-wrenchingly scary.
Yeah.
Like, what's happening?
So, yeah, they're now tasked. They have to try to find a way back to the cognitive realm, which they can do via an oath gate or a perpendicularity. And so I won't go into details on that other than a lot of character building goes on. And they're kind of traveling through Shademar trying to figure stuff out. And then meanwhile, Dalinar, there's a lot of character building going on with Dalinar and Navani. You know, Dalinar is coming to terms with his past as he remembers it. And he's growing more into a, I guess you could say, politician.
Yeah. He did regress quite a bit. He went back to his old ways for a little bit when he remembered his past. He went back to his drinking and all that. Yeah,
because he was trying to ditch the memories. But luckily he was able to
work past it.
But we also get some Navani trauma because she wants to support Dalinar, but she's also remembering when Gavilar was getting all crazy. And she's like, once again, it's up to me to run a dang kingdom while my husband's freaking out. So you feel kind of bad for her because she's like totally out of her depth, and she's like, oh, this is awful. But yeah, he's able to get through it. And it's actually helpful because it turns out Odium was going to try to reveal it all at once and then force Dalinar to be his champion, and he was going to use Dalinar to conquer everything.
Almost happened, but then Dalinar was like, no. This book introduces squires. We didn't see squires before.
Oh, yeah. Windrunner squires.
Yes.
And I guess we don't see cryptic squires until Rhythm of War, but...
Yeah, but they're...
Yeah, squires, when they're...
We're open to the idea now, like, if Windrunner's going to have squires, and can anyone else?
Yeah, so there's, like, people around... Like, pretty much Bridge 4 starts to manifest powers, but the powers only work when Kaladin is around.
Yes. Eventually, they do get to the point to where, like, a lot of Bridge 4 bonds their own Spren, and then they even have their own squires. So, like, the Windrunners are.
We don't get any of that.
That's mostly in Rhythm of War.
We get it at the end of Oathbringer when Teft swears oaths, and then Rhythm of War is when all of Bridge 4 is sworn oaths, except for Relaine and David.
So I thought that was super interesting to see. Did they even really explain how that happened? Is it just because they, like, followed Kaladin so diligently that they kind of just became his...
Brandon just kind of explains it like, oh yeah, this is how Windrunners always have squires. Like,
it's like, okay.
It's just hopefuls that train with them and then start to attract the Spren somehow. That will kind of open its own issues for another Shadesmar trip in Rhythm of War that we'll get to next time.
I don't remember if it was in this... This is the problem with, like, reading these books back to back and quickly to prepare for the last one. It's like I can't quite remember which ones are in which book or if I'm jumping ahead, but I totally missed that the humans are not from Roshar at all. They're from a completely different planet. And for somehow the Radiants destroyed the planet with their radiantness.
Surge binding.
With surge binding, yeah. And they had to go to Roshar.
Surge binding without oaths.
Oh.
So oaths on surge binding was imposed by honor as a way to control it. Because if you operate outside of your oaths, that's why honor blades are so feared and powerful, because you can have access to the powers without the oath of a Spren to kind of keep you in check. Because I can remember when Kaladin decided to use his influence and powers when he tried to use his powers to kill Elokar, he lost his radiant powers. Whereas if he didn't have an oath with Seal, he would have still had them and been able to be... Not that stopped the corruption, because we also learn the Knights Radiants were still people, and unfortunately these oaths weren't... There wasn't like a objective truth. It was just kind of like how you interpret it, and that's your oath. And so there's definitely a lot of wiggle room. But it makes sense when you think about it, because when you think of like the Cosmere on a whole, you have all the shards of Aiden Alcium, all 16, kind of split off and created their own worlds. And, you know, when you think about Roshar and the Parshendi being the native people, I think you can see that cultivation had a big change in a good big hand in that, because cultivation just wants to see things change, and she likes change. And so you think about how the they're singers. Singers is like their official term. Parshendi is their racist term by the levy.
Yeah.
But the singers were made by cultivation because they can take different forms, and then they originally had bonds. We don't have all the details, but we know that they used to be bonded with Spren, and then there was some betrayal, and then the Spren started working for the humans, and then the singers joined Odium. So we don't know the details of why that happened, but it makes sense though, because Odium, his whole power is like passion and emotion, and humans are definitely that.
Yeah, they are.
So it kind of makes sense. But there's a lot also when you think about like Scadrial. So Scadrial is also native humans, and they're created by ruin and preservation. So I don't know. I'm wondering if cultivation is the only one that created non-human things.
Oh yeah,
because at least in all the other Cosmere places, they're all humans that I'm aware of. Because I think we go Nalthis, they're humans. Scadrial, they're humans. Ashen, they were humans. Ashen was the name of the human planet.
Where they came from.
And then where's the other planet? Whatever. The ones where when you die, you turn into a shade. I don't remember the name of that. Is that Nalthis? I thought
Oathbringer?
No. There's one where remember the shades are there, like if they're green,
they're
that
okay,
one, and if they're red, it's just a short story.
It was like
it's Silence in the Forest of Hell or something.
Yeah, that one.
That one.
Okay, no, yeah.
And you have the one with the crows. They're humans. You have White Sand. They're humans. So unless I'm totally missing one. They're all humans except for the singers. Like cultivation is the only one who.
Yeah, because even thinking of Tress, Yumi, and Sunlit Man, they're all.
Well, Tress wasn't made by a shard of Analcium though.
Oh, I guess that's.
But yeah, they're humans still. A good point.
Humans everywhere, I guess.
Now when I was to Brandon, be like, are the singers the only non-humans that were created by shards?
I think it's interesting. I wonder why they even wanted to create people. Like, why do they want to create a people to rule over or whatever?
I don't know.
Trying to repopulate.
It was just part of becoming a shard of Analcium. They just wanted to do stuff.
They all wanted to create, but then Odium's I want to destroy all this stuff.
I think a big part of what's going on in the Cosmere now, and I think Brandon, after finishing Rhythm of War this last time, I feel very confident that Brandon is kind of ramping up to a Star Trek-esque level space conflict between the shards and their peoples.
That's really what it feels
like.
And
I think it's because, in large part, when Analcium was splintered however many thousand years ago, and vessels took just pieces of the power. But then after having that power for so long, the power changed them until they just embody that. In Scadrial and Ruin, he was the vessel that held Ruin, just eventually became Ruin. He just wanted to see everything end because he was Ruin. And Preservation wanted everything to stay exactly the same because he was Preservation. That's just what that meant.
Yeah.
And Odium is just hatred, so now he wants to destroy everything. And so
Ruin and Odium are buddies. Do you think?
I don't know, because Ruin just wants to see. Ruin's just accepts that everything wants to come to an end. Everything needs to come to an end, and he's okay with making that happen. Whereas Odium wants to be the only shard. He wants to destroy all the other shards and just be the only god.
So Ruin can almost be Odium would accept Ruin for maybe a little bit, but then he'd be like, okay, now that my goals are accomplished, Ruin, you need to go.
Yeah.
He probably would want to absorb his power or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And then Cultivation, she just wants to see things grow and change. And so she kind of does that. And so I think when you just have it for so long, you just become what that is. And so it's interesting to see Sazed come into it, and then Rhythm of War, spoiler. Actually, I won't get into it. But it's just whenever, Sazed specifically, when he's so new to it, he's just been holding the shards for 300 years, which is a long time, but in the scope of the Cosmere, he's just a baby.
Yes. When you talk about the lives of gods, and it's interesting kind of think about how young Sazed is, now that you mentioned, because I'm just thinking of Hoyd talking about how when the heralds came around, he'd already lived dozens of lives, so they were but babies to him. So, yeah, Sazed is a 300-year-old baby.
Yeah.
Still not even in his adolescence yet.
Just on the Rosharan timeline, we know that Hoyd is at least the very bare minimum is 4,000 years old.
Yeah.
Because if he said he was around when the heralds were there, then that 4,000 years was when the desecrations finally ended. So like a few hundred years before that, even, because there's a scene where I think someone says that Ishar came over. Ishar was a big part of why Ashen got destroyed and why they decided to come to Roshar. So he was like part of that group of humans that came to Roshar.
And how many thousands of years ago?
One of the heralds. So I want to know the backstory on that, because I'm like, how did the humans go from like Odium, created by Odium and ruled by Odium, to like switching over to Honor, and how come the singers went to Odium? Because we got to get to Rhythm of War, because there's some things that are said. I'm just like, oh my God.
I think Brandon needs to write us the most interesting history book ever. Which maybe he probably wouldn't do if he even considered doing this. He probably wouldn't do it until like all of his books are finished, like, and just give us a history and a timeline of everything. Like,
it would be like the old Star Wars Old Republic.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It would be Roshar prerequisites.
Yes, but I want everything. I want to know, like, how did what is Aiden Alcium's story? How did he become so powerful? And then how come everyone had to come together? And we kind of know how come everyone had to come over to take him down, and just everything that happens up until whatever the ending of the Cosmere is. I thought it was interesting to go through Oathbringer when it comes to like their first like really long trip through Shademar. Like, we kind of got little glimpses when Shallan did stuff, but that was kind of it. And like one of the things that interested me is even the Spren are like still trying to recover, and they don't have like their full history or whatever. They don't know all the things, and their answers are new. So it's crazy to me that like everyone, human, singer, Spren, they're all almost starting over from when the last desolation happened, and everyone's just got to recover their culture. Literally every single culture, all the Alethi, they have no idea how their ancestors used like fabrials. That's some knowledge they lost. They have no idea how the Radiance came about. They have no idea all these X, Y, and Z, and the singers lost all of their forms and all their rhythms, and they don't know everything. And all the Spren are still trying to recover their culture too.
Yeah, but then the Fused come. The Fused remember everything, so it's kind of like it's interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah, it's quite accurately said that there's so much going on here that is just...
It's just too much to get into the details.
Yeah. So let's see, where were we? Pretty much once Kaladin, Adolin, and Shallan and company get stuck in Shademar, they're there most of the book. Unfortunately, Kholinar fell. They weren't able to stop it because the Alakar's wife went crazy. And
yeah, she got influenced by one of the Unmade. I forget which one. Got taken over. Yeah, so they got to bounce. And then trying to bounce, they accidentally end up in Shademar. And then it all comes together. The Battle of Thaylen City.
Wait, before we get to that. I just came onto a spot that when I was talking about where, Hoyd says when the heralds were but babes, he had already lived dozens of lifetimes. I totally forgot he said lifetimes. It's not his lives. He's lived dozens of lifetimes. Anyway, he said something else interesting in there, and this is maybe supposed to be a little bit of an explanation of why Hoyd is everywhere. He made a vow, and apparently his vow is, he said, quote, "I said I'd always be there when I was needed." So I wonder if that's just like why he's always in like everything, is he gets somehow called to this by this vow that he made.
Yeah, because I don't know if it's ever explained how he became immortal without taking a shard of Aiden Alcium, because he's just as old as all the shards. He's just as old as Ray's, and I forget the names of the vessels of Rim and Preservation, but he's just as old as all of them. He was part of the team that took down Aiden Alcium. He just decided not to take a shard. But I don't know if it's ever fully explained, like, how is he immortal then?
Yes, a
like
great.
we know that he's gone to every story. Like we know that he has Mistborn powers. We know that he has breaths, and we know that he bonds a spren.
Yeah.
And so he has.
And whatever the Elantrians do, I don't even know yet.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I forget that he gets that from Tress. I forgot that he got so he has like everything. He has their powers, and so it almost seems like he's gonna be like freaking Goku or something. Just like Super Saiyan and like
or something. Yeah.
Even though he's not a shard, he has all of the shards' abilities that they grant to people.
Yeah.
Like I don't think he'll ever be as powerful as a shard, but because the shard is like. They always describe this part. The power of a shard is always described as like the power of a god, and then like these are just little manifestations of that. But still, if you have all 16 of what the powers they grant, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's insane. I would love to hear his story, but he seems to he hides it, and he always does what he can to like stay out of the way of the other shards, or maybe it's just like.
He doesn't get like directly involved. He just does little things that help the characters along.
Yeah,
like he helped Wax survives a few things. He gave him in Warbreaker. He gave information to I forget the name of the sister that helped her. Like he's just always there. Like you said, he's always there when he just needs help. Like he just helps the people that are in the world as normal.
Yeah,
worlds.
but he doesn't give help by like going in and shooting the bad guy in the face. he kind of just gives his advice. It's very.
And he just
riddled advice.
Like he provides a lot of inspiration for Shallan. He's helpful with the Dalinar. I don't know. It's like just all he helps Kaladin not commit suicide.
I always wonder how authors would write characters like Hoyd when you look at like his smartness. He does, even though he's like a super weird character and he'll say things you're like, this guy's crazy, but he also can be like super wise if you ask me. And I always wonder how do you write a person like that? Do you just have to be wise yourself in order to write a wise character?
I think you just make them talk to stupid characters.
Yeah, then they just sound
like,
wise.
do this, and the character's like, oh wow, you're so wise, and then the reader's like, oh yeah.
That's what it is.
I'm sure there's more to it than that, but obviously.
All right, well, I think we've arrived to the climax conclusion.
Yes, and as a way of all epic fantasy, all the storylines coalesce into one epic battle that lasts
Brandon,
like the last few hundred pages.
Brandon does this like the best, if you ask me. I never feel like it's clunky or...
I had a coworker describe it to me in a way today that I thought was actually kind of cool. He described it as the Sanderson slap. Like you're reading along, he's just like...
It's the best slap I've ever got. That's cool.
That was pretty clever.
I didn't even know you had a coworker that was a Sanderson fan.
Me either. He saw me reading Rhythm of War 2 days ago, and then he was like, "Oh, I like that. We should talk about it." And then he's read Mistborn Era 1 and 2, and he just finished Way of Kings for the first time. So
so
he's like just discovered Brandon in like the last year or two.
Nice. So that's good for him because he finished Way of Kings, and then he doesn't have to wait 20 years for the last book to come out.
Because I told him I was reading that, and I was like, yeah, because the 5th book is coming out in 2 weeks. And he's never heard of Dragonstone Convention, so I told him about that too, which is kind of cool.
Oh, nice. Maybe he'll go next year.
Maybe.
He probably can't go this year because he didn't get a date.
But yeah, so the Battle of Thalen City is like super intense. A lot of crap's going on. There's thunderclasts. There's Yasna being a total bad A.
Yeah, holy crap.
Yasna's so cool. Like up to this point, like kind of cool. Like in Way of Kings and Carbranth, how she soul casts is pretty cool. But like you see like really how powerful soul casting can actually be.
Yeah.
It's way more than just making a loaf of bread or making a building out of air. Because she's like, one of the craziest things she does is that I was just like, oh damn. Is when she like soul casts oil. It just falls on people and then soul casts a spark. And I'm like, holy crap. Like she just burns them alive. I'm like, jeez. The other thing she does, like there's like a heavenly one like coming down, diving towards her, and she just like soul casts a wall and it's like, psh, and she just like smacks into it and then catches her on fire with oil and fire. I was like, jeez.
She'd be scary to face on the battlefield, that's for sure.
And then I think another one, there's like a whole group of soldiers, and then she just made the air around them stone. Like instantly, she just covered them all, and they're just encapsulated in stone.
Like their mouths and probably their lungs.
No, they were just in stone. Like just imagine the air around us just became stone. Like we're all of a sudden just 100% encased in stone, like just suffocate to death.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That would be awful. Because you wouldn't be able to move or see or do anything. Like you wouldn't even be able to go.
Yeah.
Because whatever you're at, that's what you're at. Because the stone doesn't. Like I was like, oh my gosh. And she repairs a huge section of wall.
Yeah.
And she's like sending lightning in. It's crazy. It's insane. Like she just totally unleashes, and it's like,
yeah, holy cow.
And of course, I think at this point, at least as far as we know, she's the only Radiant to have gotten to the fourth ideal.
Yeah, I didn't realize she had. Do we learn that in the Oathbringer?
I think it's like heavily implied, but we don't know we don't learn for sure, like for sure, until Rhythm of War, because she uses her armor.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it's like
that's about where I'm at with Rhythm of War. Is like she's with Dalinar fighting in that, I forgot what city, but
or whatever.
Yeah, it talks about how like she dismisses her helmet. I was like, wait a minute, what? I thought she was just wearing regular armor. I didn't realize she was wearing her friggin' shard plate. Like, what? She just dismisses it. And I was like,
I wonder what her shard plate's made out of, because Kaladin's is made out of windspren. So I wonder what hers is made out of.
Ink. I don't know. But that was super crazy to be like, well, I totally missed that. Where the heck was that?
Yeah, it's so crazy. There's just like such a perfect thing because like the Singer army is coming on ships. Oh, one cool thing to mention actually I wanted to talk about is, so the Everstorm kind of awakens the Parshmen and makes it so that they can think and get out of dull form. And it's interesting, in each nation, they acted like those people. Like in Alethkar, they immediately formed an army and stormed Kholinar. In Aesir, they immediately filed a petition to the government. In Thaylen, they were all really good sailors. It's like wherever they were just like, that's what they did, like as Parshmen, like, and they just became that. So I thought that's kind of cool. But so anyway, the battle. And then we have Mishram, I think is what his name is, the Thrill. Comes there and takes over Amaram's army, and Amaram's army turns on Thaylen City and starts to attack it. And
yeah, so it's like another betrayal by the Sadeas clan.
Yeah, and then Odium thinks this is going to be his time to recruit Dalinar, but luckily, because of Cultivation's intervention, Dalinar is able to resist and doesn't become his thing. And then is it at this point that he bonds the Stormfaller, or has he already been bonded? No, he's already been bonded.
That was like Inwards Radiance.
That's right. This is when he opens the perpendicularity.
Right.
That's right. And then that freaks out Odium, and then he's like, kill them all. And then Kaladin and them are able to come through the Oath Gate and help out. And then Kaladin finally gets to kill Amaram. Well, I guess technically Rock kills Amaram, but
he has to kick his butt at least.
It's like the same thing. The climax is seriously like 300 pages, I swear.
Yeah. And
so it's again one of those things where it's just like everything just kind of comes together and coalesces. Like there's growth for everyone, like everyone from Renarin to Yasna and Navani. There's growth and things happening and like things coming together, and it's like this big, beautiful battle.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of the battle is just because Dalinar opens that perpendicularity and like supercharges all of the radiance.
Oh, and yeah, another thing that I mentioned, it was kind of set up this way, so like I think it worked because how Brandon set it up. But anyways, at the very beginning of the battle, the Thunderclast attacks the bank of Thaylen City and scatters gemstones like freaking everywhere.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So that's when Dalinar opens the perpendicularity, he charges all of those, and then this radiance are able to like suck in the air, and he just keeps doing that, and they just have like almost an unlimited source of Stormlight,
which is awesome. They have at least one source that they can recharge themselves without having to like wait for a high storm to come.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of how they're able to win the day.
Yeah,
and because they have a perfect Thaylen has like a perfect gemstone, and Dalinar is able to use that gemstone to capture the Thrill and send it off once and for all.
Yes, and it was like at this point that we learned that the Thrill was a Spren or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an Unmade.
It was an Unmade.
One of the Unmade.
Which is crazy because you just don't think of it that way until this point. Like, oh, it was like a whole like thing.
I think there is some foreshadowing in Rhythm of War that they're going to have to release the Thrill.
Oh, you think so?
I'm wondering because maybe we can talk about this more in Rhythm of War, but there's just some parts where they're saying like there was another Unmade Ba Auto something that when it was captured, the tower Urithiru stopped working.
So I guess we'll find
I
out.
don't want to get too much into it because then that's like full on Rhythm of War stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, everything ends hunky dunky.
Yeah. One thing we kind of like overlooked is we overlooked Zeth in this one. We haven't really talked about him.
Oh, we didn't talk about him at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zeth's a huge part of everything.
Uh-huh.
Because, yeah, so Zeth was... We can talk about him real quick. Zeth was saved by Nail, who is one of the heralds.
The crazy.
Because so Zeth did die when he fought Kaladin.
Uh-huh.
But apparently when someone dies, if they die while they're invested, there's some left over of their soul, and Nail was able to know how to connect it back to his body. But it wasn't done quite right according to Zeth, but I think he just has breaths. Because when he moves, if he moves too fast, there's like an after image, which I think is what happens when you're just really heightened in breath. Like I think the God King in Warbreaker is like that.
Oh, really? I don't remember that. But how the heck did Niall get that ability to use breath? And that would be my question.
I think it's a larger Cosmere thing because we know from Sunlit Man and I think some other things that breath is how you like the easiest way to measure investiture. So I think it's just like,
I see.
I don't know. And maybe it's also like transportable because we know from the Ghost Bloods that they're trying to transport Stormlight off world. Like maybe someone, like if you take someone's soul from Malthus that's transportable off world, maybe that's part of it. But I don't know. But anyways, he's brought back to life and then he's given Nightblood. And then Nightblood is the sword, if you remember. That's really funny. That talks to you and wants to kill evil.
That's what Vasher was carrying around.
Vasher was carrying on Nightblood, the sword that when you like leak smoke and sucks your soul.
Yeah.
And then just wants to kill everything, and even a nick from it will just turn you into smoke, puff you away. So he's given that, and then he enters training as a Skybreaker. And we didn't even talk about Dawnshard like at all. Because Dawnshard happens before Oathbringer, but
oh, was it before? Whoops.
Or no, it's after. I was thinking of Edge Dancer.
Oh, okay, good.
Because Zeth's an Edge Dancer, too. I forgot, but yeah, he's in there. And yeah, but he enters training to become a Skybreaker, which, was the only order to not participate in the Recreants and has been around the whole time, run by Nail. And in his craziness, he thinks that by killing budding Radiance, he'll stop the desolations. But anyway, part of their ideals is they have to swear to a higher law outside of themselves. And Zeth chooses to swear to Dalinar and to follow Dalinar.
Which is, it's kind of funny to see how that went full circle. Where he went from trying to kill Dalinar, now he killed
Dalinar's brother and started this whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
That set up everything that was even able to happen, and then all the way to like now he follows Dalinar and it's like becomes like his bodyguard essentially, and follows him just like he used to follow whoever holds his old stone. He now follows Dalinar with the same passion and conviction.
Yeah, which makes more sense.
Yeah. And he kills a Thunderclast in a really cool way. He like comes out of the sky and like shink and like puffs away a Thunderclast.
Oh,
that's how he enters the battle. Because remember, Nail and him are like, are up in the sky, and Nail. This is when Nail is describing like you have to swear to an ideal outside of yourself, and he's saying, and this is when Nail says, "I'm going to take the Skybreakers and we're going to join the Singers because they're the rightful inhabitants of Roshar." And then Zeth, he doesn't say it, but he heavily implies that he's going to go with Dalinar, and then he shows up with Dalinar, and Dalinar's like, "Get me the gem that he uses to prison," and then him and Zeth and Lift work together. It's the whole thing. But yeah, his entrance of killing the Thunderclast is pretty sick. He just comes with I don't know if he just like stabs it or if he slashes it, but he kills it with Nightblood and it just poofs it to smoke.
Poofs it. That's a good way to put it. Just, it poofed to smoke.
Yes, straight up.
Yes. So Zeth has gone from like, oh crap, to hey, maybe he'll be doing some good.
Yes, the assassin in white.
Assassin
is now the assassin with Nightblood.
Yeah. I've heard like some people are kind of thinking that he'll be introduced and when in truth at some point like Zeth Sansan Valano, son of truth or something, whatever their new title for him is, they're going to say he wore white on the day he was to kill a god. And I was like, that's no. I thought that was interesting to think about that. But
in Rhythm of War, technically, he helps in killing a god.
Yeah. But I don't think Brandon's going to give him that big of a part. Like, he's not going to be sent by Dalinar, like, I want Jake to go kill Odium, you know? So it's not going to be like, there's not going to be a chapter that starts with Sith, Sons of Milano, or White. They used to kill the god. Like, I don't know. That doesn't seem like Brandon's style to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like where Zeth's story has kind of taken him.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see the Truth Watchers, how they work. Or not the Truth Watchers, that's Renarin, Skybreakers.
Skybreakers. Is Renarin a Truth Watcher, or is he something else that's got a Void Brand?
Since he has the corrupted Mist Spren. Right? Yeah, Mist Spren. He technically is a Truth Watcher, but also technically not, because the Truth Watchers were never able to see the future like he does. So, but he bonded a corrupted Mist Spren, so I don't know. It's no one knows what he is. But it's also in this one that we discover that because Yasna is going to kill him because he has the Void Spren.
Right.
But then she doesn't, and then Renarin's like, my visions can be wrong. That means that Dalinar might not give in to Odium.
Which that part was true.
Yeah.
So I would agree.
It's a big book. There's a lot to get through with the character building sequences. Like, I think you and I can agree we like those kind of things.
Yeah, those are so good.
But everyone I talk to, like, not everyone, but no, I swear, like everyone else besides us that I've talked to are like, oh, it was such a slog. Like even my coworker, I was talking to him. He was like, the whole first half of the Way of Kings, I was like, oh. And I'm like, you're gonna. I even told him, I was like, you're gonna struggle with Oathbringer, but to get through it, it's worth it. Because like, I don't know why. I guess maybe it's just like the years we've spent reading, or just our. I don't know what it is, but I like Oathbringer. Like I know everyone always says like Word of Radiance is their favorite, and it is really good. But I think Oathbringer is definitely like they're all just so good.
Yeah,
in like their own ways.
For me, it's kind of like I like them all as a whole. I can't just be like, oh, this is the best one. Like,
yeah,
I definitely agree. Like, Words Radiance has some really good stuff in it. Wave Kings has great stuff in it. Rhythm War has great stuff. Oathbringer has great. They're all good.
I've honestly loved reading them so close back to back to back like this, because Brandon does such a good job at like just it. And this is going to sound stupid, like silly, because obviously it's one story, but it just felt like one story. It didn't feel like three separate books. It felt like when I put down this book and picked up this book, it felt like I was just turning into chapters.
It's like starting a new chapter, yeah.
Yeah. And even though like time had passed, like especially with Rhythm of War, like it's been a year, but I mean, still.
Yeah. And one thing that I love that I just now thought of with you saying that is you can go and read another author's book, and they'll sit there and re-explain everything. Brandon does that a little bit, but not to the extent where he's like, other authors will practically completely reintroduce the main character and like their lives and what's going on. And like, I already know all this. And like, maybe that makes sense when you're reading the books as they come out, but like, that's one thing that drives me crazy about the Dresden Files is when you go back and reread all of those, you go back and you're like, okay, can you re-explain this? I already know he's a wizard in Chicago. Can we get past this? And like, oh, I already know this has happened. It's like, it wears on you when you gotta. And I love that this does not happen in Stormlight. Yeah.
I think it definitely is. It's another point into the favor of rereadability of these books.
Yeah, 100%.
Like all the Easter eggs are just great. The story, like I don't think Easter eggs are ever going to be enough on their own for me to reread a book. Like if it was like a decent book and they're like, oh, if you read it again, you'll see all these Easter eggs. I'm like, okay, like maybe, but like this series has the story and has like still captivates me to make me want to reread it. Yeah. And then finding the Easter eggs just adds to that they're not like super boring. The first 5 chapters of the book are just a rehash of the last book. It's great. And it's just, I don't know, the rereadability for me is just like on point. I think this is definitely going to go into the circulation. Like every few years I reread Harry Potter. I think
100%.
After Wind of Truth, I'm pretty sure every few years I'm going to reread these.
Yeah, because you know what's crazy for me is, like I've said in previous episodes, is I first read The Way of Kings in 2017, so it's been like 7 years. But it is like, not like on a daily thing, but I constantly think about it. I'm always like, oh man, whenever I think about reading or other series or just, I always come back to it. It's like, oh, that was so good. I want to reread it.
Yeah. I was even telling my coworker, I was like, man, to be able to read these series for the first time again,
right,
would just be so amazing.
I would
and
be on that
also
list.
I still have excitement. Like, I'm still excited about reading these books because, like, even though this is like my 5th time going through the series, there's still new things where I'm like, holy crap! Like, this is what was just said. And Rhythm of War, like, this is only my 2nd time reading Rhythm of War, but man, it is full to the brim, like almost as much as Sunlit Man of like greater cosmic connections. I was like, holy mother effer!
I can't wait to get to those.
Insane! Like, this is like the implications are just absolutely wild. I was flipping out.
Yeah.
And also in Oathbringer, speaking of wider cosmic connections, wow, dang it, was this in Rhythm?
Oh, tell me, we'll decide.
I don't remember, but you know how like each of the chapter headings has like a little paragraph.
Yeah.
Like it's been different things throughout the books. One of them is like obviously Sazed talking.
Oh, really?
It must be Rhythm of War if it's not like connecting right away to you. I don't know, but it's obviously, maybe not obviously, but it seems like it's Sazed replying to Hoyd, and because he talks a lot about how he's like, yeah, I'm like new to this, I'm just figuring out my powers, but I feel like I've always known it. But then he makes like such a cool reference that I don't think I would have caught if I hadn't just finished Era 2 of Mistborn. But there's one part, he's just like a little sentence, he's like, and I'm paraphrasing terribly, you have to forgive me, but it's something along the lines of, Sazed is explaining that by holding both ruin and preservation, it's hard for him to act. And then he like makes like a little comment, he's like, I need to start looking for someone that can act for me, a sword, if you will. And I'm like, freaking, that's Waxillium. He just freaking talked about Waxillium. I was like freaking out because he called Waxillium. He's like, "You're my sword, Wax," and he's like, "Screw you." I was like, dude. I was like, this is like, so then
okay,
that made it like connect. So I was like, dude. So that means, and like my mind just exploded because that one sentence meant that Era 2 and this point in Roshar are like relatively close together because he's saying in this response he's saying he's looking for a sword, so it hasn't quite chosen Wax yet, but I'm sure it might be like maybe like Wax is like a kid at this point or something, but like that means they're right around the same like time from having the same time. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So then Sunlit Man, when you have like freaking all of a sudden like Sigzil, who knows how the heck old he is in that point, but you have like space traveling Scadrians with awakened steel mines, and you're like, what happens? Like, how did that happen so fast? Because didn't Brandon say like that the next arc of Stormlight is just going to be 10 years after the events of Wind and Truth?
I think you were the one who told me that, so I don't know for sure. I didn't hear
that because I'm not convinced of that, but I do not remember where I heard it. So I don't know, I just pull it out of my butt. I'm just like, yeah, 10 years. But now I'm just like, what is the time frame in all this crap?
Yeah.
Please. Freaking out. So there's that one sentence. I'm like, it's like all like just happening at the same time, and then it just further my prediction that like at some point there's going to be just some sort of space theater like Roshar versus Scadrial or something.
Yeah.
Or like some of the shards are going to get together to face, so there's going to be like a Avengers Civil War type thing, like Odium and Autonomy against Ruin Preservation and Cultivation or something.
Yeah, that'd be crazy. I would love to see, like, my almost prediction is like the Rosharans and Scadrians are definitely going to clash, and they're not going to get along, and they're going to fight and have their own like wars. But then they're going to be like, oh, actually, we are not the problem. We need to focus on this. And like that's when they're going to be like Odium and that other one you said.
Yeah, because like Sunlit Man, like Sigzil knew about metallurgy and what's it called? There's Furukmi.
Thaumaturgy.
There's Furukmi.
Oh, Allomancy. That's
Allomancy.
That's
because he knows about Allomancy. Like, because when he gets pushed on the belt, he knows to take off his metal. And the Scadrians knew about shard blades. So in order to like just know that,
they had to meet
like
somewhere.
They have to have had intimate like battles or like diplomatic relationships or something.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you think about outside of the Cosmere, Brandon has that whole Starsight series that kind of almost seemed like it came out of nowhere. But now I'm thinking he was practicing writing space battles and spaceship fights.
He's talking about all the Skyward stuff was just practice for the Rosharans and Scadrians.
Yeah. I'm like, pumped. I'm like, that'd be so sick. And we even mentioned this. I'm like, if you could find a way to like launch a shard blade out of a cannon in a ship, like nothing would be able to stop. You just make it into like this big like thing, and you just shoot it out, and it just rips through everything. Like,
yes. I do have something. I have a response to that actually. That I think they could still figure out a way, because again, I don't remember. I think it's an Oathbringer where they're talking about like someone discovered that if you have enough aluminum, you can stop a shard blade.
Oh, that's right.
But you've got to have a crap ton of it, I think. So they might be able to outland their ships with.
That's another thing I'm really curious about is what is aluminum, because aluminum stops everything.
Yeah.
Aluminum stops allomancy. Aluminum interacts with the investiture in Roshar.
Yeah, they can't surge bind it. Like it, I don't think we've really come out, but like if Kaladin tried to
he can't lash it.
He wouldn't be able to.
And that's how they make fabrials, because if they touch spren with it, it makes it act differently, which a spren is just a piece of honor. So something with aluminum is weird with, and I wonder like why did he choose that seems so random. Aluminum.
Yeah. Every time I think about it, I'm like, so like when I thought of when they read this part where they're saying like if you have enough aluminum, I just imagine them like wrapping like a ton of aluminum foil just around something, or like crunching it up and like I'll fight with that. Like aluminum foil seems like such a soft, weak metal, but
at the same time, its value is just insane.
Yeah.
But
maybe that's why.
But then in Era 2, you know that they find out how to mass produce it, so then it instantly becomes like easy to get. But there's one question I need to ask Brandon, because I want to get one of his Raffo cards. But I'm going to try so hard on the con to get a question in. But one of the questions I want to ask him is, can a Leecher from Scadrial take away the Stormlight from a Night Radiant?
You better write that question down. Then.
Right? That'd be cool to know.
Yeah, I would love to know that.
Because imagine like you're like a Night Radiant and you're like, oh, these stupid Scadrians, I'm going to go crazy. And then the guy just comes up and you're like, all your Stormlight gone.
Yeah.
And then they can't do anything. They still have their shard blade, so they're still going to be like insanely formidable. But I mean, they're not going to have their powers. I'm like, if aluminum has the effects, I want to know how like I don't know, can the Leecher take away Stormlight?
Have you ever watched any of his other Q&As?
I watched a few, but not really like in depth. I think the only one that I ever like sat through was last year's Dragonsteel.
The one we were actually at.
Yeah. I don't know how do those people just stand up? Do you have to like sign up? I don't know how those people got.
They all just got in line. There was just like, hey, we're gonna do questions. Everyone get in line, and then that was it. And there was someone taking names, so like their name appeared up on the big screen.
I'm gonna try hard. I want to ask that question so bad. Can a Leecher misting take away a radiant Stormlight? And like from that, if he says yes, then the follow up question is, can they take it from gems? Like if you have infused gemstone, can they take it? Like obviously they can't use it, but can they like make it leave, like leech it away? Oh, because that's just investiture. And then same question: can they take away Elantrian's powers? Can they freaking? Damn it! I forgot my train of thought. Can they take away like breaths? Can they like what's the limit of a Leecher?
Yeah, you should work on we've got like 2 weeks at this point or something like that for Dragonsteel. You should like focus on like just write that question down and refine it so you get to like the perfect like raffle question.
Well, there's another question I want to ask too if he gives me two. I want to know what happens if a Threnodite gets sliced with a shard blade. Like would they still manifest as a shade, or does they just poof away?
That'd be interesting because
from there,
like, the shard blade like kills the soul.
Yeah.
So what happens? That would be really interesting.
And then there's another thing, like how come silver affects them and not aluminum? Or do they think it's silver and it's actually aluminum that affects the shades?
Maybe it is. It just looks like silver.
My questions. What happens if you throw aluminum at a crow on frickin' Six of Dust? You're just like chucking out a crow. You're like,
really, you just need to ask him 10 questions. Yeah, holy cow. This is what one of the biggest things I love about like Brandon's stuff is like you can just sit here and talk about it and get so excited about it.
This is what makes it the king of epic fantasy. Because, you have like huge A series like Song of Wind and Fire. Is that right? Is that Game of Thrones?
I think so, yeah.
And then Wheel of Time that are just like these huge, just massive series, but they're contained. And then you have Brandon, who has huge, big series, the Stormlights, normal size series, Mistborn, short stories, but that all come together in this massive universe, and there's connections everywhere that just makes it just like so good.
So good.
And it just makes, we've already said this, the rereadability, because like now you just want to like hunt and just be like, now that it's like the 5th time reading Way of Kings, like I know the story so well that I'm like just like hyper focused on trying to find like Cosmere connections that it's just like, it's crazy.
Yes.
I'm super stoked. I hope I won't get to ask him that question. I started thinking about that like a week ago, and I was like,
I wonder if we'd be able to replay that down here somehow.
I'd be like, that was me, bitches.
Yeah, like, we talked about this. Well, he got his question answered. Here's the footage. Well, if you do, I'll be sitting there with my phone.
I'm going for it, dude. I want to go for it so bad.
You have to be like ready, because I swear, like, there's 4,000 people who sit at those Q&As, but only like 50 people get up, but they run. They're like,
I'm like ready to go full on crazy person.
We'll have to.
Because the Q&A I think is on Friday at like 4, so I'm totally down to get there at like 3. Just so I can.
What we should
like,
do is
there.
also get like an end seat, so you can just be like, whoop.
Yeah, like near the front.
Yeah.
And just chill there for an hour and a half. And
yeah,
just,
that'd be good though.
Because at that point we'll have Wind and Truth.
Oh yeah, let's just sit there.
So
and
I mean,
read.
like sitting there and reading Wind and Truth will not.
Plus,
be an
like
issue.
after you walk around for a while, you kind of get tired, so we can just go take a rest.
Yeah. Now we need to transition to talk about. I'm super excited for Dragonsteel this year.
Yeah, holy cow.
There's so many cool things coming up. Like, I don't remember all of them, dang it. But the one that I'm really excited about is Michael Kramer and Kate Redding are going to be there.
Oh, what?
And they're doing a live reading of Wind and Truth.
Oh,
for an hour, for like
yes.
an hour and 15 minutes.
Oh, hell yes.
Right?
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, my God.
It's like they're both going to be there. Like, I want to
that
there's
is
like
sick. I wonder if they're going to start at the beginning, if they're going to pick a random chapter. I hope they start at the beginning.
I hope they start at the beginning, too. Because I know he's released chapters, and I'm kind of worried they're going to start from like that. But hopefully they start at the beginning. But I don't know. We'll see.
That would be sweet. Oh, my gosh.
But when I saw that, dude, I was like, oh. I like immediately. I think it was one of those ones that like open for everyone. It was like when I got a ticket, it was like 5,000. Like
Which is like how many
everyone's going to that. But I mean, I'm not going to pull it up because there were several that I thought was like I was like super excited for. Oh yeah, there's like a random one on Friday that's just called Redacted for almost 2 hours.
You sign up for that?
I did sign up for that. So I'm like, what? Because like, what is this? Like, I don't even know. And it says it's not a movie TV announcement. Yeah, so it's one Redacted. It's like an hour, a little over an hour. But I'm like, what is that going to be? Oh, the spoiler Q&A, the release event's going to be sweet. And then there's like the live recording of his podcast.
Oh, yeah, he's going to do that again.
Was that the biggest one? Was the Kate Redding and the spoiler Q&A? Oh, wait, no, never mind. The spoiler Q&A is on Monday or Thursday. Oh, I'm kind of mad about how they did this. So they have some events for their Lightweaver Foundation that are happening at the Radisson Hotel instead of the convention center. And one of them that I really wanted to go to is literally happening at the exact same time as the release party.
Why would they do that?
I have no idea. Doesn't make any sense. But it's this girl. I haven't really followed her on YouTube at all until I saw this. But her name's Cello Cat, and she like plays like popular like anime and video game music on her cello. I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to go to. Just kind of chill and listen to some music, maybe read while she plays. But then it's like it's literally starts. It's from 7 to 8 on Thursday, and the release party's from 7 to 9. So I was like, if you want to miss an hour of the release party, you can go to that. But I'm like, no one's gonna go. No, literally, the whole reason people are signing up for this is to go to the release party of this.
Yeah,
book.
what the crap? That makes no sense.
So I kind of feel bad for that lady. She kind of got sticked.
She's going to just be playing by herself.
Yeah, I think it was those two things, those three main things: the release party, Michael Kramer and Kate Redding live reading, and whatever the heck Redacted is. I'm like really stoked for, and of course, like I'm excited to see what the activity is. Like last year, it was like getting a DDF pin.
This is a Cosmic cooking show.
And I wonder if this year there's going to be I'm sure there's going to be a choose your order.
It'd be like you're a patch or something. Like you get
I was a pin. That'd be so sweet to have a pin.
Yeah. Well, I think we summed this up. Do you want to say anything about Dawn Shard? It's a good book. End of story.
Dawn Shard is just a full-on foreshadowing book.
Yeah, totally.
So,
what's a good summary for it?
It's basically, what's her name? Risen. Her journey to go
heal her pet Cherry.
Heal her pet Larkin. And we get a lot of we do learn about the Silent Ones a lot.
Uh-huh.
We learn a little bit more about them, and it sounds. If I saw a Silent One, I think I would lose it.
Right. I would have to kill them because
you're
so disgusting.
The one scene I almost had to put the book down. It triggered me it triggered my trypophobia so bad.
Yeah.
And all it was whatever his name is, the guy. He said that he came and he went in his room and relaxed, and the cracks opened, and you could see all the legs of his things, and he was just breathing, and I'm like, oh my god,
seriously,
I was freaking out. I was like that.
Yeah.
Even now I'm like,
yeah, 100%. So it sounds so disgusting to have to see them knit themselves together. No, screw the hell with that. No.
Even Risen, when she was watching him do it in the tunnel, it's
seriously,
sick.
It's if Brandon is able to make this into a movie, please do not put that in there. It's one of those things that I would be do not look while I'm staring wide-eyed at it.
Yeah. And we also get some of Lopin's perspective, which is interesting.
Yeah, Lopin and Rua are pretty funny together, if you ask me.
And we get the other Herdazian, which turns out he's a genius. His cousin, Huio, I think his name is. He's really smart, but he just has a hard time speaking Alethi. Let's see.
Risen gets the Dawn Shard.
Yeah, she becomes she becomes the Dawn Shard, and then the Silent Ones, instead of killing her, decide to protect her. Because they're if people were to just there's people, and they mention, this is another Cosmere thing, is they are not native Rosharans, and they have, throughout, on every planet, they're present. And the only I don't know if they're mentioned and we just don't notice them on other books, but the only other book that I know that they show up in is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter.
Oh, they do? I don't remember that.
I remember one of the friends sends out her Kremlings in the darkness. And
oh yeah, I did forget about her. Dawn Shard is also good. It's a nice little short story about just a little more about side characters you've seen and such.
Yeah, and huge foreshadowing on the Dawn Shard.
Yeah, I think I told you this off the show, but I really want to know how the Dawn Shard goes from Risen to
Sigzil to whoever goes after that.
Yeah, to whoever goes after that.
And that's why I'm still mad. I was telling my coworker about this too, because he was like, "What about Sunlit Man?" And I was like, "Don't read that until you finish Stormlight." And he was like, "Why?" Because I'm I'm pretty sure it was either a straight up spoiler or serious misdirection, because he Sigzil mentions he held the Dawn Shard, he used the Dawn Shard, and we know the Dawn Shards were what you were used to kill Aiden Alcyon. So I'm okay, so what did you use the Dawn Shard on? Odium?
Tell us how you really feel.
Hey, I'm so mad. That's why I need to read Wind and Truth so I can see if Brandon screwed me over. I have confidence.
So you're gonna go to Dragonsteel 2025 and be like, Brandon, what the hell?
I think what's gonna happen is I'm gonna get in line for this in 2 weeks, and I'm just gonna be how dare you? I'm gonna get all my questions just screw you. What the hell was up with Sunlit Man? He's just gonna be Raffo, bitch. And I'm gonna be screw you. I'll be wait, I had a real question. He's too late.
Too late. I hate you. Well, we might as well end it there, eh? We love this series. That's all we can say without driving everyone crazy.
Next week's Thanksgiving, so we may or may not have a chance to record again, but we will for sure record.
Yeah, we're gonna record
after Dragonsteel and have some things to share, like we did last year. But and I'm bringing my son, which will be fun.
Oh, you're gonna bring the Elijah boy to Dragonsteel.
Yeah, he's excited to meet Brandon because he really liked Alcatraz.
You're gonna get him to ask a question about Alcatraz?
I don't know. But I might be there he is over there, and he'll be like, wow.
Wow. I wonder how many kids Brandon's met because of his Alcatraz series.
I need to read that boring book to my kids, see if they like it.
They might enjoy it. They're young enough. Better read it to them quick because they'll outgrow it really quick.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next episode we'll go through Rhythm of War.
Oh, freaking A. I'll talk about this more in Rhythm of War, but I need to read White Sand. I need to read it. Because
a lot of connections are...
Yeah, they freaking use sand from White Sand in some of Nirvana's experiments.
Oh.
Damn it to hell. It's literally the only thing of Brandon's I haven't read. I just need to go to Barnes & Noble and spend the $50 to get the graphic novel. That's what I said. It's all of them, though, because it's like a graphic novel series, and it's like in a big... they call it an omnibus or something. So it's like thick. But because I tried doing the online thing, and like it does not work on Kindle because it's black and white. And it's okay on an iPad, but it's kind of annoying to like zoom in.
Plus, it's always fun to have the physical books anyway.
Yeah.
That's cool. Maybe we'll talk about White Sand one day.
So I'm going to have to get that because it's the one Cosmere thing. And it's the only thing of his that I haven't written. Of his that I haven't read yet. Yeah. The only thing.
I still got a few on my list.
That's of course it's in freaking Rhythm of War. I remember I read that part and I was like, I literally last year was holding White Sand in my book and was like, I should read in my hands. I was like, I should read this. I was like, nah. And now I'm like, son of a bitch. I'm like, what else have I missed? Has there been like people from White Sand showing up?
Dude, probably, because I swear it goes both ways. When you see someone from this book in that book, you're going to see some of that book in this book.
I think I've also just been like, I think I heard somewhere that Brandon was either working on or thinking about working on a novelization of the graphic novels.
Oh, I feel like I've heard that too.
So I was like secretly waiting for that, but now I'm like, I'm going to freaking be missing who knows what the heck if I wait.
Yep, now's the time. You got plenty of time. Read Wind and Truth. Let's do White Sand.
I should go get it right now and read it in 2 weeks until it comes out.
Yeah, there you go.
Because it's just comics. I don't think it'll take 2 weeks to read.
Probably not. I mean, even though it's thick, it's not like it's words.
Yeah, it's like thought bubbles. I've never read comics. Let me know if it takes 2 weeks to read 6 comic books. I don't know how many it is. Or graphic novel. I think there are more graphic novels than there are comic books.
I don't even know what the difference is.
Me either. To be honest with you, I have no clue.
It's going to be exciting to get into Rhythm of War. Lots of goodies, as you were saying. So, y'all kind of join us next episode. Get into Rhythm of War.
Yes.
Tasty stuff.
Yeah, man. Goodbye.
We'll see y'all later.
It's over.